Hi.
Hey,
Bob. Bike shitty morning.
Oh yeah.
Hi, Bob.
Hey.
Okay, we're going to give it maybe another minute or two longer, but if people could please add their names under the attendee section in the note docs, the notes doc, that would be fabulous. And then if I could also get a volunteer to be a troll smasher and a note taker this morning.
Good morning. I just missed everything because I was having audio problems for the last 5 minutes. So.
Oh, no problems. We actually haven't started the meeting yet. We're going to give it another minute or two for people to join.
You can toss co-host duties to me.
Okay.
Isn't it super late for you, Allison?
It's a bit early, but yeah.
It is 4:30 where Allison is, and I already yelled at her for it.
It's all good. I'll go back to sleep after this. I was just kind of like, I want to see what's going on. Don't worry.
The real question: are you up late or up early?
Up early.
Okay.
Where do you live?
New Zealand.
Oh, that's right.
So you're actually a morning person? I physically cannot do that. I would just be a zombie.
I fall into the morning person category because I normally get up at 4:30. Honestly, my most productive hours in the day are between 6:30 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Before meetings. Yeah, same for me. Before West Coast wakes up, no one bothers you.
So, if you live on the West Coast, it's just you just have to live with that you're a perpetual slacker. There's just
I was going to say my most productive hours of the day are between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. when the East Coast is going to sleep. So
Yeah.
Well, isn't it true that the West Coast doesn't even show up to work until like 11 a.m. or something?
That is BS. I'm up at 7 every day.
That's what I heard.
Have you seen Paris be on Slack?
East Coast every morning.
Actually, Paris, aren't you still on vacation or something? What are you even doing here?
No, I just have my vacation still on, so no one can reach out to me. So I can
That totally worked on me yesterday. I was like, I don't want to be rude. So I'm not.
Looking at the West Coast, it looks like Josh and Gwen and Paris, they haven't even left home yet, and it's 9:30.
Look at that.
I'm also on the West Coast. I'll
have you know that I'm in my office.
I know, I'm joking. I work from home 100% as well.
All right, let's get going here this morning. Welcome everybody to the July 31st edition of Contributor Experience. My name is Elsie Phillips and I'll be hosting the call today. As we kick off, I would just like to remind everybody that we do have a code of conduct. The TLDR on that is please be excellent to each other. Are there any new contributors that would like to introduce themselves? Not seeing any. Okay, let's jump into the regular program updates. Let's talk about events. George, do you want to talk about office hours and the community meeting?
Yep. So office hours is on for 2 weeks. Community meeting. The biggest issue we have right now is we need hosts after this week. So no one was set to host for these 2 weeks. So I'm doing 2 in a row. So I'm going to go ahead and put out another call for hosts. If you want to volunteer, that would really help out. And now that cloud providers have collapsed into SIG cloud provider, there should be an announcement posted to dev sometime soon. And I need to add SIG usability. I'm just going to go ahead and schedule the rest of the year. I have a to do that this week or maybe next week. I have an event that I'm going to this week, so I'll be traveling, but I will try to publish the event as soon. The schedule for the rest of the year as soon as possible.
George, you can add me on to host next week.
I think we have a host for next. Hold on, let me look at the sheet.
Or the week after next, whatever it is. Yeah, sorry, I'm on my iPad.
Okay, yeah, I'll look. Other than that, office hours and stuff is fine. Are we doing meter contributors next week?
Yes, we are doing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically it for me.
Thanks, George.
Actually, do you want to mention the at here thing?
At here thing.
Remember in office hours? Or at channel?
Oh, yeah. Just some anecdata for the folks. We were scared that if we adhered the channel, that people would hate us because there's like 3,000 people in there. So we ran an experiment. We said at here, like the thing that blasts everyone in the channel, says, hey, we're going live. And then we put like a thumbs up and a thumbs down emoji to see what people would say. And I thought everyone was like going to flame us and stuff. But most people generally loved the reminder that we were going live. And then in our heads, we were thinking, well, they are hanging out in that channel. So we're going to do that. So I am still very hesitant about adhering because it's misused a lot in Slacks and stuff, but it actually seemed to have worked this time.
I feel like we have it set up that only admins can do it anyway. So
yeah,
like as long as folks ask admins if an admin can do it, I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I was just scared because I was around when Brian Grant adhered Kubernetes users, and after it took 10 minutes for Slack to like come back up, like
that was at everyone.
Oh,
so
okay,
that was
yeah.
at
Whatever he did, that was
40,000 people at that time. Yeah,
Yes.
and yeah.
I've always been scared of that, but I thought it was kind of funny.
The difference is, at everyone pings everybody's cell phones. Like if anybody has it on mobile, and if you are like, if you have it snoozed, like it was
totally like, I know only 400 of you can vote, but I'm all 40,000 of you anyway.
Yeah, I think at here is like the safest on the levels of notifications. So
yeah, so something to consider.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add here that chair and tech leads channel here in a second.
Yeah, and so our line of thinking is like, well, they're idling in that topic specific channel, so it could go either way. And then we kind of had
There's significantly more engagement.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. So we had a lot more people show up and everything than normal. So it might be worth considering for whatever programs you're running.
That was a good experiment. Thank you for relaying the results of that.
Yeah.
Am I next?
Yep, you're next, Paris.
So meet our contributors is next week if anyone wants to join us. Still have a lot of work to do in that area as well. So if anybody wants to join me in that, that being scaling it out further, that would be cool. And then what else did I have on the agenda today? I think I had steering committee election, right? Hold on, I'm looking at the notes. Yeah, contributors on it too. So steering committee election, I did file an issue for that to get them kicked off. We are in the process of talking to them about election officials. All the stuff is in the issue there to get that kicked off. If we're looking at the same timeline that we did last year, we're expecting announcements at some point around August 20th. But that's it for steering committee election stuff. Does anybody have questions with that?
I think the next action is they have to actually explicitly say who the election officers are, because like we gave recommendations and then they were just like, okay.
Yeah, I think they're gonna talk about that at one of their meetings.
Okay.
I don't know if that's today. Do they have a meeting today? They do not have a meeting today.
Okay.
They have a meeting next Wednesday, the 7th. So I have a feeling everything will come out there. Yeah, public meeting, 1 o'clock, Wednesday, the 7th. So anybody on the line that takes interest in steering committee matters to take that as a note that next Wednesday, the 7th is a steering committee meeting. Any other questions about that? All right. And then Contributor Summit. I jumped ahead a little bit with the steering committee. Contributor Summit is going along awesome. I feel like with the exception of the fact that we don't have signed contracts, everything else is going along super smooth. We have the addition of tons of shadows so that we can sustain this next year, so that this can be my last one as far as leading. But everything's going awesome. We would love your feedback for the content at this point. And that can be located in a GitHub issue as well that I'll link to the agenda. It was a mega email was also sent to steering. I'll forward that to contributor experience as well. That mega issue just describes the content proposal and things along those lines. But that's pretty much it. Questions about Contributor Summit?
Have you gotten to the point where you're like trying to figure out boots on ground, or is that
Not
done?
yet. No, that's, I would say like September.
Okay.
Oh, and the session proposal thing will be.
Okay, put me where you needed me. That's all I'll say.
Sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead, man.
I was just saying the session proposal thing will go out either later today or tomorrow.
So yeah, we'll have a CFP type of deal as well. We're doing unconference as well. It's pretty much something for everyone. I secretly call it a contributor circus because that's really what it is. So a circus on the beach for open source contributors. It's kind of like my dream. So that's it for us.
I have a question not on this one, but I don't know if I've missed it. Did CNCF not announce a China date for next year yet?
I have not announced a China date for next year yet. I don't know if is Eeyore on. I don't think Eeyore's on. Anybody?
On call.
Oh, Eeyore's on.
He's here. Yeah. He's just lighted up. So that's why you can't recognize him. It looks like he's frozen though.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, last I talked to somebody about it, which was 2 weeks ago, they didn't have a firm location yet. They have a backup location that they're holding in Shanghai. Beijing is kind of off the table. So there was rumors they were trying for some location in Hong Kong, but nothing definite.
So
That's why there isn't a date announced yet, because it's also not a location.
Thanks. These things always seem like they start to run into each other, and just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed that and got surprised by it in a couple months.
Paris, the need to know chair emails, I think, is next up.
Yep. I did include host or instructions if you're sending out the email at the top. I don't want people to think I'm the only person that sends these emails. So I did include the top notes there. I've been personally sending them to folks' individual emails and not the Kubernetes SIGs lead list, just because we heard from several folks that people don't keep their notifications on for that list or whatever it was. But that's just not scalable. And so we're just going to have to start sending them to the leads list and then adhering the channel. That's what I was going to do. I was going to adhere yesterday. Just haven't gotten there yet, but it is what it is. These people need this information ASAP. Most of the time it has stuff to do with them personally as well as their groups. So, but anyway, sent out the one the other day. It had 5, and I usually only send out when we have at least 3 topics to cut down the noise of the emails, because that was the original problem, was that they were getting too many emails from me, us, KDev, etc. So this was just an effort to consolidate that so that they get everything in one chunk. So I usually do for at least 3 action items. So if people on the call see 3 action items that are listed in there with the correct context and links and everything, and it's ready to go, just send it. That's the deal, because if it has at least 3 things, that means like we have at least 3 things that are hot that are ready to go. And then I would love to scale this even further. I would love to get this out of like emails and somewhere else, but some of the stuff is a little like admin intensive. I've thought about sending it to KDev, but some of it's like hardcore into like, hey, fix this Zoom control on your admin panel kind of thing. So I'm also game for folks who want to like help scale this effort into something better and more meaningful. But it's really great nuggets of information.
Wait, so I guess the link will tell me what the actual effort is.
Yep.
Just in case it gets lost in the administrivia, as a receiver from another SIG side on this, it's awesome what you're doing, Paris. This is super, super helpful.
I'm just trying to because I felt like when we were sending individual emails, people were just like, wow, this is a lot of administrivia, especially the Zoom stuff. Because at one point, I felt like I was sending an email almost every week that was like, change this, do this. And it just got to be a point where, okay, well, let's consolidate and act more like a newsletter of action items. And
the cadence now and the aggregation is awesome. It just makes like I get the thing, I read it, I checklist through it. It's instead of always feeling like there's another one and I'm behind. It's like, okay, today administrivia, catch up on the things, check them off, feel good.
And I'm selfish. Like, I mean, this is like I'm from like this is from a chair role too. Like, I want checklists, y'all. Like in this role, like there's nothing better than a checklist. So I feel like anytime we're doing documentation, if we can do a checklist style for SIG operations, that is like the best, where people can just go right down and say, did that. But yeah, no, please help with this. Please add content. Again, if it's stuff that like we need to go to individual SIGs for, then go to individual SIGs for it. But if it's stuff where we need, to talk to 100+ chairs and tech leads, and get them to disseminate information, then that's kind of what this is for. That's it for me. I'm sorry for the long-winded there. That was kind of my plea for help as well.
No, that was awesome, Paris. Thank you. Do we have an APAC coordinator on the call? Nikita, maybe?
Allison.
Yeah.
Oh, Allison. Okay, great.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what's happening with APAC coordinator? So I actually couldn't attend last meeting. I was super excited to actually be here and say, yeah, doing the APAC thing. We're having the meeting today. It's going to be, I'm bad at time zones, but it's usually about 6 p.m. my time. So there's that. Updates so far. We're just currently working, currently a lot of ideas discussion, but I haven't been able to sync up that much. Nikita might have a better idea as well, so I'm going to just pass the invisible mic across.
So we were thinking of doing a webinar sort of thing, but it's still, of course, in the idea form right now, and we'll let you know more when we have some concrete plans around that.
Okay.
I've got a tip for you. Contact CNCF and see if they have any different communication channels for APAC end users and stuff like that, like how they get a hold of people for APAC KubeCons and stuff like that. Because then you could send the webinar stuff out to that crew, and that's how we could get people, obviously more interested from that area.
That's helpful. I'll
chase some of that.
Yeah.
I'll chase some of that.
Yeah.
Help chase some of that down for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Super sorry for messing that up. GitHub management is up next.
So we haven't had our first separate meeting, but I talked with the rest of the GitHub admin team, and I think we've got a cadence, we're going to meet once a month and have a kind of an open to the public call. So I need to figure out an exact time and then set our first meeting. Whole bunch of things ongoing, including the two kind of key ones that are at least top of my mind right now. We're going to be moving to rename FetaBot, something that we've got repeated feedback on, because people don't know who Eric Feta is, which I feel like is an education thing. They need to know who Eric Feta is, but at least for new contributors, that was a repeated piece of feedback. They don't understand why this random robot is doing
who
things.
Is Vegeta?
Yeah,
I didn't even know it was a soft J until a year in.
So that's one thing. The other thing is we have some actual lines of communication with GitHub, the company now, and really good, clear lines of communication. A couple of us met with Brian, who's their director of open source product and stuff yesterday, and they have both to kind of accept some feedback from the issue that we had. This was a couple months back now, where all of a sudden people could assign issues and PRs to basically anybody, and that kind of caught us by surprise, because kind of some of our permissions model was around who is allowed to be assigned things. So we were able to provide some valuable feedback to them, as well as speak to them and give feedback to things from GitHub that are coming down the pipe. So definitely some positive ongoing work there. We're going to have soon, yeah, as I said, we're going to have soon some meetings and stuff to talk about at least the stuff that we can address as far as different changes we want to make and the ongoing work around our GitHub tooling.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Christoph?
Thank you,
I
Christoph.
mostly had a comment. I think, I do think it is weird that people are complaining that the name for FetaBot is confusing. It is certainly unique. And I think if you're going to name a thing, you should name a thing. And that said, I actually think the fact that it's named after a person in the community can come across as super cliquish and not very welcoming, as in like, you have to be the special person if you want to have a thing named. I mean, we even worry about like emoji named after people, right? Because it becomes too in-crowdy. So in that sense, where I can see both sides, I definitely agree with a rename. But I also think it's silly because, hey, it's a very unique name and it works. So
I was the thing that convinced me to like let go of the name FetaBot, because I was very like it's like a unique thing and it's like part of the community and stuff, is it's an inside joke. And inside jokes are funny if you're in the joke and very confusing if you're not. And something that is, especially doing a thing like stale closing things. So we have people who are not even involved in the project go and open up an issue, have no desire to even become a contributor, but are like reporting a bug. And if eventually this random robot with somebody's face comes along and closes it and they don't understand why, or is like reporting that it's stale, that kind of workflow, that was the argument that kind of convinced me like, okay, we should probably like let go of the name and change it, even though it was a funny inside joke for a while, but it's obviously there's definitely enough of an argument that it's not funny for other people because they just don't understand it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Update from Slack Infra.
I don't think Jeff's on. Jeff said he was going to take the lead on that.
He's been out sick the past couple days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add or share? What's new in Slack Infra? Or anything in Slack?
Honestly, nothing really new at this point in time.
All right.
Training,
Contributor
right?
documentation.
Huh?
Are we doing moderator training?
Oh yeah, I mean there is incident management training for moderators that's being coordinated for Sage Sharp. I didn't necessarily want to give that update because it wasn't necessarily mine to give, but we have almost all of the moderators accounted for in either one or two sessions. Still waiting on others. This also brings up a curious discussion point of should we make this required for moderators? What do you all think about that?
I think it should be required.
Yeah, this is an incident management training class. So for folks that did not know this was happening, the Code of Conduct Committee took a course from Sage Sharp recently on general incident management as it relates to code of conduct and stuff like that. There was actually a piece inside of the training that really had to do with online moderation, which got me thinking, hey, we have folks that are moderating that have never moderated before. So this would be really cool, like how to deal with folks who are not behaving well, etc. And it was really fun. Like I have done courses like that in the past, and I did not know how well it would do remote, but it was actually really fun that she uses Zoom and like you go into these individual Zoom rooms with other people and like act out scenarios. And so it'll be something similar, but very tailored to online moderation and not like events and stuff like that. But yeah, that happens August 26th, I believe. And hopefully the second course will be scheduled for sometime in September. So we do have seats available. And that's something else I'm trying to think about too. I was going to tell the steering committee that we have, I think, 4 seats available for the August 26th class. So I don't know if we should invite other folks from the community or if we should invite maybe some other CNCF projects. CNCF is funding this. So I was going to talk to some folks there, but
As a SIG chair, I think it would be really useful. If it's not required, it should at least be optional if we can manage to allow people in, because we're responsible for moderating our lists and keeping an eye out on our Slack channels.
That's a great idea. Yeah,
It's-
I'll open it up to the chairs for sure. Thanks, Tim. That's a good idea.
I having come into a role that has a very public presence, like with Ansible social media and mailing lists and everything else, I would have really appreciated training like this prior to engaging in that activity.
I can't speak for the specific program because I haven't done it yet, but I am signed up for the program next month. If it goes well, I would absolutely be supportive. Like, I'm supportive of the idea in principle of like, you should do this either before or shortly after becoming a moderator on our platforms as a concept. And yeah, I was going to like plus one, I was going to say the exact same thing that Tim did. Like, that would be the other group that I would say to open it up to is chairs and leads who are moderating meetings on a regular basis for their particular groups. Like, I can potentially see the value in that too.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's really good. I'll ping the chairs and tech leads today then too, and then we'll get that officially on everybody's books. I've been waiting for the last couple of seats to get filled.
One note, sorry.
No, you go, Bob.
One thing before we actually make it like a requirement for the moderators is that we have the moderators pro tempore, where their entire deal is rotating them out. So at least coordinating training for people, if we, with the intention of rotating them out like every 6 months, which was the original idea, might be
could we
challenging, but
could we put the onus on the regular moderators to do some kind of onboarding session with the pro tempura folks that's like 45 minutes long, where you like maybe just go through a quick scenario of like, hey, this is what you might see on Slack specifically.
That I think we could definitely do.
Yeah,
it's actually in the guidelines that they're supposed to be doing that. I just don't think we've done it.
We have definitely not done it.
Yeah, you're supposed to be like helping and mentoring your pro tempore ones and stuff.
And then the other thing that I wanted to say, what did I want to say about the moderators? But I can probably wait. But all right, go next. What's up?
Finally, we have contributor documentation.
All right, for this one, we definitely need to think about what we want to do for a meeting. This is the one, I feel like the one sub-project that does get a little bit neglected from us. That's probably one of our most important sub-projects. And I think we need to meet. So I think we need at least a monthly cadence, 30 minutes, like we can always extend if we need more. I think starting monthly, 30 minutes is responsible. I'm going to send out, I think only 2 people responded to the doodle though, and we have like 12 maintainers. I don't know if that means the maintainers aren't interested in meeting, or if the maintainers don't care, or what exactly that means. And I definitely use the word maintainer instead of owner. So other folks that are owners on the line for the contributor guide, the non-code guide, and the DevL guide, let us meet.
Yeah, can you resend the doodle? Because I don't remember seeing that.
The doodle is on the meeting notes.
Oh, okay. I'll respond.
At the top. Every sub-project doodle, if you're still like community management, contributor documentation are the 2 that still have outstanding doodles. And I have not set up those yet just because of the low response rate for both. So if you're interested in both of those sub-projects and or a maintainer, please weigh in, and then we can talk about those things. So who here is working on any contributor documentation stuff that wants to give an update?
I'm still working on the contributor site. I just made a few metadata fixes after Bob committed the regex. So Christoph, we are now importing the contributor guide only into the site, so we don't have to move that at all. So I was unfortunately, with my travel coming up, I was thinking about reapplying for the subdomain, but I don't know how to ask for DNS names anymore. If anybody knows, let me know in chat. It used to be just ping talking. I don't think he does that anymore though. That was
it's expanded. Like it's basically it's Tim, Dims, and I that do it, and the process is opening an issue in a specific repo. But I can link you to that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If we're kind of at that point, can we send out, like, are you able to send out to the contribx list, like, hey, here's the thing, please go give feedback, and have like one more good round of feedback before we start throwing up the domain to make sure that like we're good for it, and everybody understands like this is what's going to go live on.
Yep, I have the Netlify URL. I'll go ahead and send that right after this meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
And that's all I have contrib site wise.
There's definitely some stuff like that to make it look prettier, like the broken lists, but that's pretty easy to fix.
Yeah, there's one page where that's ugly, and I'm.
So what are we going live with exactly? Like what features? It's just the contributor guide, and what else?
Hold on. Let me just give everybody the URL in chat here. It's just kubernetes-contributor.netlify.com. Just toss that here. This is what it looks like so far. The guide, events, which we need to update, the calendar, and then a link to the code of conduct and a link to the job board, the role board, not jobs.
And we're going to get a new home page before we launch too?
Yeah, so that's something I would like to get feedback on. So I initially just slapped like Gwen's workshops there, but we could probably do with rewriting a new paragraph in the front with like a friendlier thing maybe that outlines some of our projects, all of that kind of stuff.
Much better landing page.
Why is the workshop on the home page?
Because I figured it was a good introduction on how.
I feel like introduction is like an introduction to the community, not necessarily a workshop.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I feel like workshops and education should be its own tab. This is where I was hoping we would have like a professional help us with information architecture.
Okay, well, I just kind of put it up there as an example. We can put whatever you want on there.
Yeah, okay.
It kind of says there, we can put whatever we want here.
Quinn with cats, etc. Yeah.
I'm down, so I can whip up some PRs so I just PR stuff into the
Kubernetes-SIG/.
Okay.
I'll get you a better URL in a minute.
I like the idea of.
Go ahead.
So one of the things I hear Paris asking for is like, hey, can we have a conversation about content and have it like curated towards a goal?
Yes.
If we're meeting on a monthly cadence, that's one of the things that could be a standing part of the agenda. What's the page look like today? How do we freshen it? That would be really useful.
Yeah, I feel like all of the research that we did and the content strategy is like telling us one thing and this is producing another. So that's why it's like we're hearing one thing from contributors as to what they want to see and what they want to surface, and we have data that says what they want to surface, but I'm not sure we're still surfacing it. And it's like I feel like we're just giving people what we want to give them.
Well, from my perspective, I just want to get a site up and running that has things that are useful that we absolutely need, and then we can add to it as we know what we want to put on there. Like we haven't had a calendar in over
that's
a
why
year.
I'm just saying I feel like we should just focus on just the calendar and the contributor guide. That's why I'm like, I don't understand why we're adding all of this other stuff. Like from an MVP perspective, like let's just hit the guide and the events page and like that's it.
Okay, well we can cut that out. I mean, what would you prefer to see on this page?
I don't know. I just feel like I would prefer a web development process here, like where we curate content and stuff like that, and not just necessarily like one person throws content on a website and like says that this is like the MVP.
So so like actually looking like spending the last minute clicking through this site, what I see is a homepage that is basically a to-do. We need some content for the homepage, and everybody can like agree on that. We have the contributor guide. We have an event site. We have a calendar. We have a link to our code of conduct, and we have the role board. Nothing there seems to me to be objectionable or necessarily like incomplete. I can see polish on all those things, but
yeah,
like
especially the homepage was
like an MVP, except for the homepage that is definitely still a to-do. Right. So if we get some help and we figure out what we want on the actual homepage, The rest of it doesn't seem objectionable to me.
And I know we had talked about doing a development blog on the homepage, but that feels like kind of, that opens a whole new set of things that we have to think about. So
that's a lot of work.
I would prefer to like, yeah, if it's like, welcome to the community, we, you know, here are our programs, here's how you get started, and then just like start from that.
And that's fine. I'm just saying it would be really cool to,
yeah.
I feel like the homepage should be the landing page and not necessarily like attacking you with content just yet. Like that's why I feel like that's what the further links are, like contributor and events and calendar. And then we should have one on there that says like new contributors. And then that's where Gwen should be like first, you know, in the front folder.
Since I'm going to hit the road, then why don't I set this for a list for another round, and then basically say everyone look at the homepage. That's like the problem area or whatever, because then I have to be gone for a week, and then when I get back, I can reassess before filing the issue and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, that's what's great. It does not, from my perspective, it's definitely not ready to click go live, mainly because of the homepage. Yeah. But if we polish up the homepage, and I could see a few other things that just need polishing, like when you click events, it's a blank page, and then you click into the specific things under events. So there's like little things like that we can create issues for and get polished up. But I don't feel like we're far off from launching this.
And this is all, not Jekyll, the other thing.
It's all Hugo.
It's all Hugo.
So it should be easy enough to modify.
Yes. I feel like I've addressed all of Josh's and Christoph's concerns in the past month. It just took us a long time to get here.
Yeah, I mean, my concern was to make it easy to modify. Because whatever's wrong with the content, if it's easy to modify, we can fix that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I said I was going to ask for the domain, I was asking for the domain not going live. So I don't want to tell people that I was going to announce what we have there, because it literally says we can put anything we want here.
I think the domain would be like the last step before going live.
Okay.
Is mapping the domain to it's pretty trivial.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how that process worked, because that's
not hard
to me.
Yeah.
I have two nits. Actually, I have a nit and a concern. One is about the website. Unless we're not talking about that anymore, which is also fine.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to like derail everything talking about the Contrib site. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No. I think it is also missing the developer guide. We want to show people.
This is why we need a features list of what we plan to launch first, what we want to launch second, because I feel like once we launch this site, this is all we're going to get. All we're going to get is Gwen's and Paris's going, where's this? What about this? What's going on with this? So I feel like if we can have a roadmap of like what we plan to do, and that's kind of where I was going with like logging those issues of
I agree with
this is what we intend, like these are the goals of this website.
So
I feel like that would be a much better community reception, and like how we got to these, like what the methodology was as to why we're launching these things. I feel like communities really appreciate that.
I feel like
so would that make sense to have that be on the agenda for the next contributor documentation meeting?
Yes, 100%. Definitely why I think we need to meet.
All right. Sorry, Chris, I think I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Like launching websites, like George, I appreciate getting something out there. Like it's awesome. That work is great. Paris, I appreciate you wanting to have like some roadmap, and the two can work in tandem is all I'm saying. Like we do it all the time. We just need to actually sit down and figure it out.
Okay. Let's quickly jump in and do
one thing briefly within the contributor documentation space, maybe more contrib guide, developer guide, but maybe also non-code. So I've been doing KubeCon reviews, and obviously keeping confidentiality in mind, I'm waiting to see what gets announced eventually in the program in the coming weeks, but I have a number of ideas that came from that and wanted to see what the group thought about maybe reaching out to some of the people who proposed content especially if they didn't get accepted to the conference, but trying to pull them into these things where they're proposing similar things. But then also if they get something into the program, like watching for those things and trying to pull them into our community. Because I see some people who are outside this group here who are doing interesting stuff, or maybe don't even realize that we have this other stuff going on, but there's like a connection to make there.
So people are proposing things that could be good to include in some of our documentation. And you'd like to see that information captured and documented in what we're making.
Yeah, it's cool that it's in KubeCon potentially, but especially if it doesn't end up accepted into KubeCon, like there's these clusters of people who are doing stuff just like us, but they're not here.
Is that cool for us to do? Like, is that
yes?
Cool
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say.
The program committee and stuff. Yeah. Like, hey, especially like after the decisions have been made.
Yep. So I checked with Brian Lyles specifically on that because I wasn't sure, and he said yes, that's cool. Like there's the confidentiality aspect, but also this is supposed to be community and positive and forward moving. And if it's not there, reach out to them. And yeah, that's a good thing for us to do. So, and he thumbs up that.
I think that sounds wonderful. What would you propose for next steps on that? So probably waiting until we know what makes it in and what doesn't, and then maybe making like a wish list of probably prioritizing, as you said, the ones that didn't make it in first. And then would the contributor documentation group then reach out to those individuals and be like, hey, we heard you submitted this really cool thing. Come join us in our sub-project, to contribute your knowledge to that so it can be immortalized and live on forever.
Yeah, I've kind of got my list of ones from the review that I did, and I'll keep that in my pocket. And over the next month or something, as that happens, I'll see what I can do, and I'll bring it up then in the contributor documentation meeting. But I also wonder if I can, for the things that I wasn't reviewing, because I've only got a chunk, there's probably a whole bunch of other, or potentially a bunch of others in the community track, and maybe we can afterwards get the official list. And then maybe this is something we do on an ongoing basis, is after the programs are announced, say, hey, could we scan through the CFPs to try and do some of the synergistic stuff?
That sounds fabulous.
So I'll own that.
Oh, cool. Do we want to maybe keep that as like a topic for like a face-to-face meeting, like one of the ones that we do have, like looking through those CFPs and talking about what we'd want to like include in contributor documentation?
Maybe. I mean, a
special call or something. I don't know.
CNCF can dump the CFP stuff into a spreadsheet, and like mine is the one that I got is huge. So I don't know, like face to face, if that's easier or not, but we can figure out the mechanics of it. Okay.
Well, I really like the sound of that. I think we have so many people that contribute to KubeCon. And it'd be wonderful to capture some of the knowledge that we aren't going to get recorded.
Rejects is happening this year as well. I just found that out this morning. So if you haven't booked travel yet and want to show up early, that's something I found out today.
Very cool.
Oh, and well, I said this in the channel yesterday, but for anybody who might have missed it, it's hotels, like the hotel blocks are open, and they usually sell out very early. And most of them have very friendly cancellation policies, like 72 hours beforehand. So if you're considering going, might be good to book a hotel.
That sounds also like something that would be good to throw in the technical lead chair email as well. Get on that. Okay, because we have less than 15 minutes left. Do y'all want to still go through the project board, or do you want to jump down into the discussion section?
I would go to the discussion section.
Okay. Ihor, looks like you have the first thing here.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. I had some issues with my microphone before. So we had some questions regarding do we need to remove the expired placeholder files? So we had a few PRs open in Kubernetes community and some other repos where someone removes the expired placeholders files. And I'm not sure that we should continue following this practice. The reason why the placeholders files are important because they could be like dumped in the stone somewhere, especially to some resources where you don't have any editable access to, like some historical files, like printed books, some presentations, like some historical presentations, some blog posts, and so on. So it would be great if we'll keep the placeholder files with all the necessary information regarding the new place of that file. And I've had some concerns on this, so we may probably spend some time here in other communities on this.
So my comment on that would be like we have over the course of like years, whether it's in the main Kubernetes site, whether it's in the community repo, all over the place. We've moved files and moved stuff multiple times to reorganize it into like better places. And we have done this without placeholders before, and we break links and people don't know where to go. We've done it with placeholder files and removing them, which is our current practice. That seems to have definitely worked better. My concern is if we leave tombstones around in perpetuity, it's going to get unmanageable to try and find a thing, because it's like, which out-of-date version of the tombstone am I going to, and clicking through multiple things. I can sympathize with, in particular, the use case where we don't like printed material in particular, where you can't go back and rewrite a book. I would hope that if people are doing that, they're using one of the short links, because those we do have control over. Things like go.kates.io, or one of the other like short link generators that we use to map one thing to another, because we can rewrite those. And for things that have moved around multiple times, we've gone like, oh, go create a short link, so that we can have at least a consistent redirect and not have to go to update documentation. We've done things like for API conventions and owners file documentation. Like, there's a couple of key things that we've done that for. I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Like, I understand the reason why we would leave things around, but I also don't know that that's sustainable to just leave tombstones around, because it makes trying to find the actual thing that you're looking for very confusing if you have like 10 different, communication.md or whatever files scattered throughout the repo. As in particular, when we do big reorganizations, such as migrating caps. That was a big one, or the contributor guide. Like those are the two like super big ones that we had. Like, oh, we have 50 tombstones for different things. I just don't know it's sustainable to do that for everything.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a mess right now. I mean, I'm in there right now, and I'm like, there's so many redirects and so many placeholder tombstone files. And I'm like, why don't we just like correct this when like correct the links at the time of like filing the placeholder? What's the?
It's possible if we have the access to that link. So I'm absolutely against of having having the big mess of the old files. I agree that it's really not comfortable to have tons of different files, most of which are not really useful because they're just the dumbstones. But for example, if I will find some historical blog post from 2016, and I will click on some link that will point me to some outdated link, I will see 4404 error there. the GitHub 404 error. But if we'll keep the tombstone, I will see the link to the new file and I will forward it to that file, because that's unfortunate that GitHub doesn't support redirects in this way. But tombstones can be the good solution for at least the manual redirect. I also agree that we should not do that basically for everything, but for something big, like again, like the contributor guide or something like that, it could be useful.
Yeah, I feel like I just did a PR the other day for cleaning up the communication folder and trying to like reorganize that a little bit. And it was like the amount of tombstones I was gonna have to put in there and like the mess of tombstones that are already in there. Like I feel like the YouTube one has like 45 redirects and like I was just like, I just deleted the PR. I was like, forget it. Like I felt like it was
do a grep of everything that you're changing while you're doing your PR, and then submit fixes. It's like, here's the content I'm fixing and the 75 things I have to fix because I'm moving.
Right. No, I mean, and I
just did one.
That was like the second part of my PR, but it was like the first part was like, I just wanted to see what it was going to look like. And then the second part was like me adding the tombstones. And then that's when I was like, this is really messy, y'all. Like, that's why I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the delete button. Like, I'm just going to hit that delete button right now and pretend like we just didn't go down the path. It didn't really need to be organized anyway.
Quick, at least comment on the whole blog post link stuff. At least last conversation with Caitlin, the general policy was links that are out of previous year and beyond, not going to bother fixing, because things have shuffled around quite a bit.
What I would, I guess maybe what I would suggest as a compromise is at least maintaining our current tombstone policy, which is like roughly 3 months or a release, and then cleaning them up. But if there's like specific files, specific use cases, like things that would be longer lived or things that we feel are really important to find and we've identified, perhaps keeping a tombstone around for longer or indefinitely on a case by case basis if we identify specific things. I don't know. I'm trying to think like this. I could see us if we move like the API conventions doc, if or when we move that doc, because that doc is linked in a bazillion different places. That one may be a particular use case where we're like, okay, we want to keep a tombstone around for this file longer or indefinitely because it's going to be in so many different places. Maybe we identify that on a case by case basis, but I don't know. I'm still not quite on board with doing that with everything. And like any file we move needing to maintain an in perpetuity tombstone, because we don't know necessarily who's all linking to it. Like we know, yeah. For stuff we can control, it's easy enough to fix. For stuff we can't control, like other people's blog posts on the internet, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily like a solvable problem, even though it definitely is inconvenient for people.
It makes sense to just keep the tombstones forever for a long time for something important like the API conversion, so something like that. So it's the valuable compromise. I agree. Like just to clarify, I don't want to make an imagination that I am the tombstone person only. I'd like to remove basically everything that doesn't have any value in our community repo or in our any of our GitHub organizations, but I'd like to I'd like everybody to be so much comfortable with using that stuff as possible. Specifically, I'm raising this question because I had this issue myself multiple times when I find some blog post somewhere in the internet, clicked on the link, and got the 404 error from GitHub. So that was really not so good. I had to work around with manually searching for this specific file somewhere where Google or we had a GitHub search form, but that was less convenient than just using the tombstone file. But I agree, like for something like absolutely low priority items, we can definitely follow this the current practice.
George had a really good comment here that maybe we should consider using something other than GitHub as a CMS. And we could maybe talk about that in another meeting.
I think that's a great topic for the contributor documentation subproject.
Add it to the list.
Yeah, we can also like probably put some guidance in the style guide too. I guarantee you Bob's thinking about that right now. If I know Bob right. I think you shook your head yes, right?
Is there a regex that people use? Because I'm looking right now, I'm only seeing maybe 12 or 13 tombstones in the community repo, which surprises me. I would have guessed there were a lot more than that.
I think we've been killing them off.
There was, I think, a fairly recent.
I think there's multiple issues that people have been generating of like, hey, good first issue, go kill our tombstones.
Okay.
Honestly, it's a great reminder just to go back and I can go look at the open issues and say, oh, this needs to be removed now instead of
the ones in the root are worse though, because that just I think if we were to prioritize the ones at the root that are still there, I don't know if there are any currently. Last time I looked.
I would love to kill that communication.md file that's in the root officially. Anyway.
All right, George, you have our last two topics. And you have probably a minute and a half. So
sure, no worries.
Go.
So I sat in on SIG usability. That's happening. They seem to be all set as far as their YouTube and all their community resources. I just wanted to mention that there's a new SIG. And what was the other thing I wrote? Sorry, I just closed the tab accidentally. We're due for a status next week in the community meeting. So just a heads up.
Oh, admins and mods on the usability stuff. Just a flag to help out. And then also the cloud provider stuff. They're turning multiple SIGs down and they have a checklist going. So if you're a mod on any of our platforms, report in for duty. And then also the release team wants their stuff automated. I've done all of them and would love another YouTube admin to help figure it out. Love you forever. Thank you.
All right. So I think that concludes our meeting today. We're out of time. Have a great rest of your day, y'all, and see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Lost